Hey guys, Morgan's Maintenance. Today's tool talk is going to be all about drywall tools, more specifically the ones that I use in my line of work. And again, I'm more of a remodeler contractor and then also a service handyman type person. Do a lot of drywall patching, but I also do a lot of framing out office spaces and things like that where I drywall the whole entire buildings and things like that, the whole entire suite. I've done whole suites before, me and another guy by ourselves. So sometimes I do a lot of drywall. Sometimes I do small amounts. And this video is coming about because I keep all my drywall tools in this Milwaukee Packout Ammo-Style box. And over on Project Pine Hills, he's a good channel. If you haven't checked him out, you might want to do that. He had a video specifically for this Milwaukee Packout ammo box and talked about how he uses it, how he thinks it's pretty versatile. I commented on that video and said I use one of these for my drywall tools. It really works out nice for me. And Dan Gallagher replied to that comment and said, asked me if I had a picture of the inside of the box so that he could see kind of how I had it set up, which is nothing really fancy, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. But that's why I decided to go ahead and make this video. One, I told him, I said, I'm probably going to shoot a video at some point in time and go over what I use for drywall tools, and I'll just go ahead and do that at that time. So that's part of this, but I'm going to go ahead and cover all the tools that I use, or all the supplies, the main ones that I use in my line of work. And again, I'm not a drywall contractor by far. It's not something that I do 100% of the time, day in and day out, but I do my fair share of it. So I've got quite a few tools to get it done, and I'm going to share some of the products that maybe you don't know that's out there that's going to be pretty helpful maybe to some of you. But we'll go ahead and get into this. I'll go over all the supplies, and then we'll go over what's inside my ammo box. So supply wise first, as far as what I keep in my truck at all times, is right here. I keep a roll of mesh tape. That's pretty much, for the most part, on any kind of factory seams. If I'm doing drywall and I'm actually installing the drywall, hanging it and finishing it, this is typically what I use. And of course, you're supposed to use hot mud with that as far as for your first coat, for your taping coat. And I always keep 5 and 20-minute mud. But all these things, I open up my camper topper on the side door. I've got little pack out crates in there. This right here stays in those crates all the time because I do enough of it. So again, I keep mesh tape. That's one of the things that I use. And then instead of paper tape now, I have pretty much changed over 100% to this Fibofuse. It was one of those things that I tried out, and I actually really like it. Any place where I would normally use paper tape, and I'll show you why in corners here in a minute, why I still use, because that might be the one place where you would use paper tape as an inside corner over the Fibofuse, but I don't use paper tape for inside corners as well. So pretty much if I'm going to do a patch or a butt joint, this is what I use all the time. And I like it because the mesh kind of, or the mud embeds into that fiberglass. So instead of there's really a very, I don't personally think there's any risk of getting an air bubble or anything back in behind there. And then the biggest thing that I like about it versus using the mesh tape, which a lot of people use mesh tape for everything, is whenever you go to sand your patch, if you just take just a hair too much and you get to where this right here is showing, you're like, man, that sucks, because now I got to go back in and put some more mud on it and all those things. This right here, you can actually kind of sand this, and the little fibers will sand off with the mud, and a lot of times it saves you from having to go back and put a small amount of top coat back on. So that's primarily the two tapes that I use. And again, these are things that are in my truck all the time, and then we'll go over the things that I kind of pull out specifically for jobs. The next thing is the Holstery Joey, and I don't remember the prices for all these things, including my knives that are in there, but as usual, I'll put as many things, the pictures of them, up in here, and I'll put links down in the description, so if you want to go check them out, you can, because just off the top of my head, I'm not going to remember the prices on a lot of these. This is the Holstery Joey pouch. This is the original one. I think it's somewhere in that $30, $35 range. And I keep this one full of drywall screws, 1 1/4" drywall screws, because typically I'm doing 1/2" board, unless it's kind of on a firewall or something like that. I'll go with the 1 5/8" with 5/8 drywall. But I keep this full of 1 5/8", leave this set up that way all the time. That way I can also, close this off. I don't have to worry about the screws coming out of the pouch or anything like that. So I just leave this one set up for drywall screws. It's 100% dedicated to that. I use that, and then I'll just run a pencil over here. This one is a high boom that somebody gave me, but normally I'd run either a Pika or a Holtefors, but I had one of these, so I just stuck this one in there. That way it can just live in there. So that's another thing that I use all the time. The next thing I did was I took some old protein powder jugs, and I made myself some 5-minute mud mix, just so it doesn't take up as much room in my truck, because this is just for patching. If I know I'm going to do a job, I've got bigger containers of these. I keep the 3.5 gallon buckets left over from the dust control mud, as you can see here. That 3.5 gallon bucket fits exactly one of those bags of mud. So that's what whenever I go buy a bag, I put it into those bigger buckets, and then I keep filling these up out of those buckets and keep these in my truck just so it doesn't take up as much room. And again, I normally just keep 5 and 20 minutes on me, and I only use USG mud. That's all I like. I like the easy sand from USG. I like the USG finishing stuff. Pretty much I like USG drywall. There's really, as far as my drywall supplies, I really don't like the stuff that's at Lowe's, like the Certainteed or whatever that's called. Not a big fan of the drywall or the compounds. I always go to Home Depot and get my stuff, or I go to Next Gen, which is a local supplier of drywall. They carry USG. That's where I get all my stuff. But I do keep 5-minute and 20-minute mud in my truck all the time. So as I said, I don't use paper tape much anymore. Probably really at all. There's very few situations where I might do it, because even if I flat tape, I use that 5 fuse. And for inside corners where I used to use paper tape, I've swapped over 100% to this level line. And there's also a no coat that's a little bit wider than what this is. And what I really like about this is it dispenses out of this box, and then a 1 foot mark on there as well. So if I need an 8-foot piece, I can just keep pulling it out until I get to 8 of those lines. I don't have to get out a tape measure to measure this or anything like that. And the beauty of this product is it's kind of got this rigid right here, rigid shape, but then you just fold it like so to make yourself an inside corner, and it kind of takes that shape of an inside corner, and it's kind of adjustable to whatever angle. So if your corners are a little bit out, or if you're doing something that's more of a 45 instead of a 90 or something like that, this is kind of flexible to whatever angle it might be. And then it's got this little perforations right here that as you put your mud on, you apply this. Whenever you go and squeeze your extra mud out, it kind of embeds itself in there. And this tape right here is also paintable. So then if you get in here and you sand, and you don't have to get so far into your corner, it makes it to where, you know, you don't have to be so precise with it. So I really like this. You can also use it for outside corner if you want to. Yeah, it will fold back that other way as well, and you can make yourself an outside corner. I typically don't use this for outside corners on like a corner of a wall that people are going to hit. But if you're going to use it for an outside corner, like if you're doing drywall around a window or something like that, you might get away with using something like this. I typically don't ever use it for outside corners. What I used is the paper faced with the metal on the inside of it. I don't have any of that here with me. I normally buy those specifically. I know how many corners I'm going to need, and I just buy those. I don't keep them and stock them here at my house or keep them in my truck. That's something I buy when I go to pick up the drywall. So I don't have those, but again, I'll put kind of a picture of maybe one up here. That's typically what I use for outside corners, but in a pinch, you can use these if you want to. But this is a really good product. Not a lot of people at my drywall supplier, whenever I talk to them, he said you just can't get, because it is more expensive than paper tape by far, but to me it just performs extremely well when you put it up there. I've never had one, you know, fail in any kind of way. Even though, I mean, I've been using them for a long time. I really like this product. Can't say enough about it. And again, not sponsored. They're not. I'm just making this video sharing with you what I use. And again, this is actually a Certainteed product. I told you a minute ago I don't really care for their mud and all that stuff, but this one's actually pretty good. Next up for sanding, pretty much, of course, I'm going to get out a pole sander. Maybe if I'm doing a bunch of work, like again, if I'm doing a, you know, whole entire 2 or 3 rooms or something like that, I'll get out a pole sander. I've been using this Gator. It's a hook and loop. I bought this at Lowe's, I believe it was. It's made by Zip, I guess, Zip Quick Change. And it's hook and loop. There's the sandpaper. They sell it and all kinds of different things as well. This is typically what I will put on my pole. I will go around kind of just to knock off the high stuff. But I'm more of a feel person. Whenever I sand, I like to be able to touch it with my hands. So I don't never use just this as, you know, my final sanding or anything like that. And again, I don't do drywall for a living. Time is money, I'm sure, with drywall contractors. But I got to spend a little bit more time because I'm not putting all my stuff with boxes and things like that. So sometimes, again, I will use this, but this is not really my go-to for sanding. And again, I do smaller jobs typically. What I like to use are sanding sponges. This one here, these are both by Warrior. and I actually buy these at Harbor Freight. These are $5.99 for a pack of 6 of the angled ones, and then it's $5.99 for a pack of, let's see, I think it's 10 of the square ones right here. And they have a fine grit, which is what these are, and then they also have a medium grit, which I don't have. And again, I think I've got one of these. It might be a 3M brand in my box. I'll show it to you whenever I get to that. But these are pretty much all I use for sanding. I like them because I can get into corners and things like that with these. They seem to last for a pretty decent amount of time. These are just my favorite things to use. I don't use sandpaper or anything like that. These are what I go with. They just seem to hold up. So these are by far way cheaper at Harbor Freight than they are at anywhere else. You know, you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and all those, it's at least another third, if not double, than what they are at Harbor Freight for the same amount. So every time I go to Harbor Freight, I almost buy them out of these every time I go in there. So if you go to my Harbor Freight, you might not find any, but you might want to check out yours. So that's pretty much mostly what I use for sanding. Again, sometimes I do have a vacuum attachment that takes the little mesh sandpaper that I will use in a pinch if it's someplace where I absolutely can't have a whole lot of dust. But I typically don't like using that mesh sandpaper. It seems to leave little grooves and stuff like that. So that's what I use for sanding. Now let's go ahead and get into my ammo box. So again, this is a Milwaukee Ammo-Style Packout box. This just sits back there in the back of my truck, latched in all the time, right beside my Milwaukee Packout vacuum. And basically this just holds all my drywall knives and the supplies that I typically use with those. And again, this is able to shut just like it is, so you can see that it's latched. The top is down. I'm going to go ahead and flip it kind of on its side so you can see how it's set up. And again, there's nothing special in here. I didn't build anything. I'm using it just like it is. Now, up here on the top, it does typically have a little tool tray. I got rid of that because I didn't need it for what I'm using it for. So normally if you buy one of these, it comes with some dividers, and it even comes with more dividers than what I have in here. And then it comes with a little black removable tool tray with a handle that you can put up here on the top. So up here on the top, I keep a 14-inch drywall pan. That's basically the widest thing that you can fit inside of this. It's like a little over 14 inches from here to there. So I keep a 14-inch drywall pan. And on here, I keep my brush because I keep an empty bucket in my truck at all times. So that way I can fill it up with water at the job site. And then I can just leave this there, and I can basically clean out all my tools inside that empty bucket throughout the process of however long it is. So I keep a scrub brush right there, and again, this is just one I picked up at a home center or Walmart or somewhere. It's not anything in particular. 14-inch drywall pan with the USG sheetrock magnetic grip. I had a video for this a long time ago, so this just, you know, folds up. But you know, you get into some cold water during the winter time, especially, you mix up your mud. Sometimes this stainless steel pan can get extremely cold, and this right here just kind of gives you a little bit better grip. It just sticks on with the magnet like that. It allows you to keep your hand a little bit warmer, gives you a little bit better grip. So that's a 14-incher, and again, I keep a 16-incher inside my truck as well. It won't fit in here because sometimes with my 14-inch skimming blade, I like to use that 16-inch pan. So I'm going to see if I can tip this down. I don't think anything's going to fall out. That way you can kind of see it loaded out as far as the loadout wise. In the bottom of all these, I keep microfiber cloths like this. That way it kind of absorbs the impact of my knives going in and out instead of them hitting this hard plastic on the bottom. And if there's a little bit of water left on them, it kind of absorbs all that water, and then they'll dry out over time. I don't put them back in here extremely wet, but every now and then there's still going to be a little bit water on them, and that doesn't make as big a deal for what I do, and I'll explain that here in a minute. So down here on the bottom, I keep some blue chalk inside of a small container. I mix this in with my mud after I'm, you know, done with all my final coats. While I'm sanding, I take my pencil and circle stuff that I see needs to be kind of touched up a little bit. I'll mix in this blue chalk. I either had a video or a short showing you how to do that. That way, whenever I go back, I know where I need to go back and touch up sanding. Every spot's like a faded blue color, so that kind of helps out with that. I also keep in here some Kills original primer, just for like if I'm going to maybe a patch has the paper peeled off or something like that, or there's something real dark, I'll go ahead and hit it with primer first, and then I'll start patching after that, and that kind of helps it from bleeding through whatever that was, or it allows your mud to stick to that drywall surface where the paper's been peeled off a little bit better as well. That's all I keep in this one. Again, that's a microfiber cloth down there. Here I keep a beater out of a mixing, you know, just your standard kitchen stuff. And again, I've got a video on how I mix my hot muds, what I call it, 5-minute mud, you know, 20-minute mud, all those things. I've got a video for that as well. I'll take this and put it in my M12 drill. That's typically what I use with it, just because the power seems about right to not make a mess. But that's how I mix my 5-minute and 20-minute mud. I'll put water in the pan and keep adding powder and mixing it until I get the consistency that I want for whatever that job is. So keep that in there. Here's one of those sanding sponges. That's an angled one. And again, I just really like these. You got sanding spots all the way around, all sides. So, you know, you can stick this side in a corner and go up and down, and you kind of got that right angle in there. Or if you really need to just get in some little fine spot, you can take this edge and get up in there and just sand that little amount off. I just really like these. That's pretty much all that I use. I've got this tool here. I think maybe I had this in a tool haul or some video a long time ago, and I can't even remember what the name brand of it is. I think they sell it at Lowe's, but it's also on Amazon. But this works as my rasp. I don't have to use one very often, but that's a rasp right there that you can take and run that on the board and use that. But it's also a little kicker tool where I can take and shove that under the drywall and put my foot on it here and lift up drywall a little bit if I need to as well, like if I'm hanging entire boards or something like that. So pretty useful tool. I've actually really liked it. The rasp part works well as well, so I've had it for some time now and I'm pretty happy with it. So that's a pretty decent tool. Next up, a tool that I don't use that often, because you'll see whenever I get into my other knives, I've kind of swapped over to this stuff right here. But I've just got a 12-inch, just regular, you know, stainless steel trowel. Sometimes I will actually kind of use this like a hawk or something, more so than I actually use it to trowel stuff on with. So that's there. Again, I probably could actually take that out the little amount that I use it. And if I end up needing something else that I decide I want later, more different knives or something like that, that will probably be one of the things that comes out. Here I also keep a bucket scraper, so that stays in there. I don't use it that much either, but I have it in there just in case I want to. More so because I use my buckets, the 3.5 gallon buckets. I like to use the Dust Control by USG whenever I'm working in spaces where it matters, and those 3.5 gallon buckets work well with my hot mud bags. It fills up almost exactly full, and then I like to just use those buckets for my empty buckets and stuff as well. So I use these more than anything just to clean out my buckets at the end, more so than actually using it during the process. Down here's my smaller knives, and you're going to see a pattern of these. This one is a wallboard brand or something like that, but it's all stainless steel. And this is one of the few that I've got at this brand. I can't remember what the name of the brand is, but it's the one they sell at Home Depot. I think it's Wallboard or something like that. This is a 4-inch knife right here. And now typically in the past, I've had all level 5, all stainless steel, and I've had these kind of handles. And I like these. These are fine, and if you've got them, they work well and all those things. But these are harder to keep clean. And then, you know, it's just, to me, the all stainless steel, I really like them more than anything. I've swapped over completely to them. So I've got a whole set of these at my house that I get out occasionally and use these still. But I just, the cleaning up of these, I just stick them down in that bucket. Everything's washable. Everything comes off really easy. No matter, this takes nothing at all to clean these up. So I have a 4-inch one. I haven't swapped this one over to level 5 yet. So notice this right here. It's slick and goes straight down. I had some bigger knives like this. Over time, your hands can slide up and end up catching on that right there. So that's why I started buying level 5, which I'll show you here. You got a 3-inch. You can see they got these little nubs right here that keeps your hand from sliding up and hitting that blade. So again, level 5 stainless steel, that's my go-to. I clean them up, stick them in here. I don't have to worry about them being 1000% dry, and then I'm gonna get them, if not, I'm gonna get them out. They're gonna have rust on them. I haven't had any rust get on these at all whatsoever. So there's a 3-inch. So I have a 4-inch, 3-inch, and then right here is a 2-inch as well. Again, this one's level 5, all stainless steel. This one I haven't lost the thing on it yet. So every now and then you just got to have some small ones in between, like if you've got a corner and then it's a door jamb and then the trim's on there, or even if the trim's not on there, sometimes you just need a real skinny knife to get into certain areas. So these I don't end up using that often, but I'm glad I've got them whenever a time comes that I end up needing them. So those are the ones that store right in here is my smallest ones. And then up here is where I keep, these are the ones I use the most. So here I have the same brand, and right here's the name is still on this one. See my face right there. Wallboard is what it is, so that is what it was. So this one's a 10-inch, and I haven't bought the level 5 of this one because I don't use this one as much as I used to. I used that all the time before I bought these right here. So I have a 10-inch all stainless. This one's an 8-inch all stainless, level 5. Again, like those nubs, that's worth the extra. I don't know how much more it was for me to get these, but it's worth it for this right here. So if you're in the market to get you some, I would recommend getting level 5. And then I think also DeWalt has some that looks just like these. So they've got to be made in the same place, in my opinion. So level 5 and DeWalt, to me, they're identical. The skimming blades, the all stainless blades, all of them look exactly the same to me. But 10-inch, 8-inch, and then here's 6-inch. Again, level 5, all stainless. Right there's the level 5. So those are 3 of the main knives that I get. I probably get out, you know, the starting out with. I'll use that 6-inch doing my mud coat. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and use the 8, and then I step up and start doing these. So these are basically my second and third coat tools. I have a 10-inch of the level 5 skimming blade. I've just gotten to where I really like being able to hold on to it like this and kind of skimming alongside that board. This, to me, I like the feel of it. I didn't know how much I was going to like them. I started out, I've got the 24-inch as well that I keep in my truck all the time. It stays inside of my green toolbox drawers. Whenever I open up my top drawer, there was a spot there for me to put it in, so that's where I keep that one. But I also keep this 10-inch one. And again, this is pretty much my second coat. Whenever I go to do that on any kind of seams or anything like that, this is typically what I'm going to use. And then the last thing I have in here is a 14-inch. And the reason why I bought the 14-inch and not I think they have a 16-inch, is because this box is 14 inches. I wanted it to fit in here, and that little extra couple inches whenever I've already got the 24-inch wasn't really, you know, something I had to have. So I have the 16-inch all stainless level 5 skimming blade as well. And if you haven't tried any of these skimming blades, they've got some cheaper ones out there, and they may be just as good. I have no idea. So, you know, these are the only ones I bought. These are the kind of tool where I'm going to go ahead and buy the one that I think is going to be the best, because I haven't used one before, so I don't want to buy something really cheap and then me not like it, and then that turns me off from skimming blades altogether whenever it might have been the actual tool that wasn't any good. So these work fantastic. I absolutely love them. And again, basically that's all my drywall tools in a nutshell. They all fit mostly in that ammo style box, other than the supplies. And again, I load those up in my Packout crates on the side of my truck, the ones that I keep with me all the time. Anything I'm basically going to need to do a patch, I keep that on me all the time. If it's going to be a job where I'm actually going to be installing board and finishing it, then I know that. I know what I'm going to need. I get that out of my garage, or I buy it at the store at the time I'm actually going to pick up my drywall board or having it delivered or whatever it is. So I don't keep those things with me all the time. But the things I need for a patch, that's the things I keep on me all the time. And it fits pretty well inside this Milwaukee Packout ammo box. So hopefully, Dan, that shows you what I have in there. Again, I didn't build anything in here. It comes with these dividers right here. It even comes with 2 more that you can put here, as far as if you went and bought this box. I took 2 of them out. I still use these. But it also, again, came with a tray that I don't use because I just don't have a need for it. So that's my drywall tools. That's what I use, the products and things like that. Let me know in the comments below if you know of some other product that's better that's out there. Of course, I've used the, you know, tearaway beads and all those kinds of things. So most of those things I already know about, and I've used those, and I use them in the situations in which they're needed. But something like this level line corner bead, that's probably something that a lot of people don't use, and I'm telling you, it's way better. Now, is it expensive? Yes, but to me, it's well worth it. I would buy a box and try it on your next job and see what you think about it. And then again, also buying those Harbor Freight sanding sponges, that can save you a lot of money. This one's a 3M because I have several. Sometimes, you know, I'm somewhere and I need one, and there's not a Harbor Freight around. I have to go to Home Depot or Lowe's and spend more money. So that's what this one is here. It's a 3M. Those work well too, but you can save you some money by going to Harbor Freight. But let me know in the comments below what you think about all this. You got any questions? You got any suggestions? Feel free to drop them down below as well. But as always, hope this video was useful in some way. You guys stay safe. Have a blessed day. See you on the next video.